Alrighty, welcome to episode 164 of Tokwa's Ask Us Anything. As usual, it's been a pretty busy news week. Western Australia's WIEV network has further progressed with Horizon Power's 150 kilowatt Kempower fast DC charger site in Halls Creek now fully commissioned and open to all EVs to use. This brings the total number of stations currently active to 20 out of the final project plan of 49 sites. Western Australia's WIEV network has further progressed with Horizon Power's 150 kilowatt Kempower fast DC charger site in Warman now fully commissioned and open to all EVs to use. This brings the total number of stations currently active to 21 out of the final project plan of 49 sites. Tesla has announced that its Cybertruck Cyber Thursday delivery event will happen at 4 a.m. Perth time on Friday. Tesla has applied to the Australian Energy Regulator for a retail energy supply licence in all states of Australia except for Western Australia. If ultimately granted, such a licence will allow Tesla to bundle electricity supply plans with Tesla's cars, Powerwalls and other energy products, thus providing it with a highly lucrative income stream. In recognition of the tireless work undertaken by Tokwa, Tesla is holding an exclusive Owners Club private Model 3 Highlander reveal event at their showroom in Osborne Park on Friday evening the 8th of December between 5:30 and 7:30. This event is strictly confined to financial Tokwa and Toka members whose bona fides will be checked prior to entry. And that was this week's news. Indeed it was, and once again welcome to Tokwa's Ask Us Anything. As is customary, if there is anyone who is new to this show, please do unmute yourselves and say hello. Or perhaps a little bit later, it's all good. Alrighty, now I'd just like to throw, firstly, very importantly, to the Tokwa event, and actually this is a Tokwa/Toka event, and this is at the Osborne Park showroom for the Highland next Friday. Now, something I have to absolutely stress, and this is so vitally important, and this is not our policy, this is Tesla's policy. This is strictly for financial members only. And unfortunately, there is no provision to bring a partner or a plus one. So I've sent out emails to all Tokwa members, that financial members, that if you want to bring a partner or a plus one or a friend or anyone else, unfortunately, you have to have them as financial members of Tokwa. So, just go onto our website, which is just tokwa.org.au, and click on join. You'll see it on the menu. I'll just actually do that just to show you, just in case. Okay, so you can see the menu there, and you've got join. So you just click on join, and you can then join as a full member, and it costs $20. So that's Tesla's rules. Now we do want a big turnout. I think there will be a lot of people coming, and you do have to RSVP on the link. So that is the link on their website. We'll also post this up on Facebook as well. You can actually see the URL here, and in fact what I'll do is I'll put it in the chat shortly, or someone, James, maybe if you can please put it on the chat. But you must click the RSVP. You must actually put in your details to be registered. And it's going to be really exciting. Go, Pete.
We should mention we've got over 700 financial members now, and that email has gone out to all of them. So presumably this will be the first time that anyone in the public in Western Australia will have been able to see the Model 3 refresh or the Highland in real life.
I believe so. Yes,
probably.
I think. Yeah. So I believe over East, which this happened last week, and I believe that's the first official revealing of the Highland in each state is for the clubs. So over East, it was obviously universally Toka, and Toka members enjoyed the privilege of being the first to see Highland in their respective states. Actually, Chuck, you're joining us from the future. Um, uh, and are you having your event next Friday as well, or is it another date?
We're December 8th for Hobart as well. Yep. So it's the Hobart and
Fantastic.
Perth events, both the same night. But of course,
Excellent.
ours is 3 hours before yours.
That's right. So you'll get it. You'll be ahead of the curve.
That indeed.
Yeah.
And look, full disclosure, I can't even make it myself, and I'm devastated about that because some idiot at my work, no, not really, but several weeks ago, my fellow my employees booked their Christmas work due at 7 o'clock at 6 o'clock at the casino. So I'll be a no-show, unfortunately. But anyway, such is life.
You just have to be a bit late because you've got something on just beforehand.
That's right. I might have to let them know that I had to wash my hair unexpectedly and it took ages to dry. So that's why I was a little bit late. I was just say, look, just have a few extra drinks. It's okay. I'm paying for it. But anyway, so that's really exciting. And, you know, the Highland is going to be a very successful model. Obviously, it's still going to be beaten by the world's most popular car, which is the Model Y. But look, it's going to be a preview of what happens when the Juniper Model Y gets released, hopefully next year. But there you go.
How do we confirm our financial membership?
Okay. So what we're going to do, we're going to have two methods. So we are going to have a 1 or 2 hour old paper hard copy of financial members list, and we'll also have a laptop at hand so we can also confirm anyone who may have joined us at the last minute after we've printed the hard copy. And also, and like I said, and I can honestly say, hand on heart, we're not deliberately trying to seek new members. You know, these are Tesla's rules and we absolutely abide by them. But look, if you've got someone with you and they really want to see this car on the Friday night, you can literally just join on your phone, or you can jump on one of our laptops and just join. You just pay by credit card using our PayPal portal, and as long as you're financial at the moment you walk through the door, that's fine. So, and again, that's Tesla's rules. Not that we're seeking that per se. We don't want people to, you know, join us just for the sake of looking at the car. We want people to join us because there are net benefits in doing so. But so that's how we do it. So there will be a master list of names, and that list and our online database will be the arbiter of who is financial or not. And look, if you've lapsed, it only takes you a couple of minutes just to renew. And even if worse comes to worse, we can basically manually renew you, you know, there and then on the night. So
Harold, we should
a certain number.
manage expectations.
Well, sorry. I think Paul, was that Paul first? Yeah, Paul and then Pete.
Yeah, I was just asking, is it capped at a certain number?
I believe not. Now,
Okay.
one thing I should do too is there will be an issue, obviously, with parking, except there is no actual issue. I'll just bring up Google Maps and explain what I mean, because clearly there's not a lot of parking in the actual showroom area. I'll just bring up the map. Sorry, where am I? Green Street. So we're over here a little bit. Okay. So this is the showroom basically here. Now, if you drive down Main Street and take a first left and then left again, all along here, there's plenty of parking, and even in here. So you'll find there's plenty of off-street parking, just literally just walking distance, and even down this lane there'll be some parking as well. So please don't be concerned that there's only space for a few dozen cars in the compound. There is ample parking even along here. within 100 meters of the showroom. So, and there's also a train station at Glendalough just down the road, so you can hop on a train if you want, if that's convenient, if you live down south or something, or even way up north. So there's no reason not to come if you're curious about, being one of the first people in WA to see the new Highland Model 3.
But we should manage expectations and just let people know that we've got 700 financial members. That email's gone out to all of them. There'll be quite a bit of interest, I would imagine. So yeah, just make sure you register sooner rather than later to avoid disappointment, as they say.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Alrighty. Oh, now, and obviously the exciting thing is we've got Cybertruck. Well, for us, it's Cyber Friday early at 4 a.m. So that's going to be pretty exciting to probably for the first time get the current US pricing for the dual motor and tri-motor Cybertruck. So that's obviously also going to be pretty exciting.
And the actual configuration, rather than the speculation that we've had for years, months. It'll be good to see what the build is. What is it? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, Paul. So, and that's why I sort of deliberately said the dual motor and the tri-motor, because the smart money is on the single motor probably not being released at this stage, at least. And that's not a bad thing, because I believe that most orders were for the dual motor and tri-motor versions anyway. So, and we've seen a bit of footage. I think Rob Mauer sort of condensed it the best, where he showed you've got beast mode instead of ludicrous mode or plaid mode, and that he showed the graphics of that. And it's going to be really interesting to see the final specs of distance, of range, and acceleration, and all those things which are expected to come about. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. Alrighty, might as well open the floor to any questions or comments that anyone might have.
I got a comment.
Yes, Peter.
Yeah, I joined up as a member roughly end of June. How does one know when his subs are due to be paid? Do you get any notification, or is it a 12-month thing? I've got no idea.
Yes, you do. So what happens is Ken in the room? I'm not sure if Ken's here. I think it might be about a month out of when the subscription would lapse. You get an email automatically sent to you to ask you to renew. So, and then I think there's another email that comes out just as it lapses. So you get at least 2 emails by way of notification that you either are your membership is about to become due, or it has become due. So, and what you can, sorry. So again, Peter.
When I did pay, I thought I was paying $20, and that's what I put in. But when I checked my credit card, they only took 10. I thought I must have been special. I don't know what happened there. So I thought I might have
said anything.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't. Only doesn't bother me.
Okay, I'll put my address in the chat, and you can just drop the blue note off to me. No, yeah, that's strange.
Well, I expected 20 when I saw my credit card, and only 10 came out. I don't know what happened, but I don't know whether
is that because
6 months or I'm paid up for 12 months.
No, didn't we have 2 levels of membership? One when you're expecting a car, and that was $10, and one when you've actually got a car, and that was 20. Or am I getting that wrong, Harold?
It's not to my knowledge.
We haven't had that split membership for quite a while, so no, I don't think that's right.
I joined up in June or early July. I can't remember exactly. I got my car just before the end of the financial year.
Yep. No, you should be fine. And I mean, if you really are concerned, you can just log on to the site. So just click on to log in.
I'll just wait for the email now and know what goes on. I'll just wait to get contact with. I'm quite
Yep.
happy to pay
Cool.
the money. I just didn't know how
Yeah,
it
no
worked.
worries. Yep, no worries,
Sweet.
Pete.
I must admit, I've never had a reminder. And I haven't paid to. Oh, it's been probably paid on time, but I've never had a reminder requesting payment.
Maybe you've just paid, I don't know, on anniversary or something.
The email,
No,
the reminder email,
Yeah,
going to spam.
you're active, Peter, so you're all good.
Oh, I know I'm active, but I
Yep.
just have never received a notification. That's all to pay. So no big deal. But
Yep. Yeah. Oh well, you're active, so it's all good. So yeah, there you go. All right. Has anyone else got any
Well, I
other
got that
question?
email today, so I must be active too, eh? About the
Oh no. Well, actually, no. Sorry. So I send out the email actually goes out to quite a few members that are no longer financial. So I don't really delete people's just because you're not financial. You'll still get emails from me unless you ask me to stop sending emails. So it is up to each person to make sure they are financial. Just getting the regular Ask Us Anything or casual meetup emails doesn't guarantee you're financial. What guarantees you're financial is what the database says on the website. So
I'll send an email and you can let me know. Check.
well, just send me a message with your surname, Peter, and I can look you up right now. Although I don't want to do that for everyone because otherwise it's going to make it very boring for everyone in watching this on YouTube. So I mean, although boring is good if you suffer from insomnia and you want to just lull yourself off to sleep, which I'm sure that Damon is doing right now on his swing shift on his ship. But yeah.
I just put it up there for you.
Yeah, cool. No worries. I'll check that in a little bit. All right. Any other questions or comments? Come on, it's early.
How did you go? Your trip was pretty impressive from an observer's point of view, but also your last day in particular was quite stunning. I was going to email you that there was a radar at Northam and El Cabello, but my machine fell over and I didn't do it. But hopefully had a trouble-free run everywhere with that radar.
Oh yeah, yeah. Thanks, Pete. Yes, as many people probably know, some idiot went around Australia and this particular idiot planned to do it in 12 days and thought that would be pretty cool to do. And actually, I've got a couple of circumstances to blame for what happened. So one thing that happened early on in the trip was I discovered that I couldn't stay at Camberwell because there was no accommodation. And I think Camberwell was going to be my 5th day, or end of day 5 was going to be Camberwell. And because there was no accommodation, I thought, well, I've got to press on further to get to Cloncurry or Mount Isa. And that sort of put me in a good position. And I looked like I was going to do it in 11 days. And I thought, wow, that's really awesome because that's even a day better than I had kind of planned. And then a certain person by the name, this was on day 9, I think it was. No, it was actually on day 10, rang me and said, hey, do you think you could make it to Perth by midnight? And I went, oh, I don't really think so, because I was sort of at Mundrabilla Roadhouse. And this gentleman, what goes by the alias of Peter Petrosky, and he sort of got me thinking, and he goes, oh, because, then you could do it in 10 days and that would be amazing. And I go, yeah, I don't know if I could make it by midnight. And then I sort of realized that I didn't have to make it by midnight. I only had to make it by 3:48 in the morning because I'd left at 3:48 10 days earlier or whatever it was. So anyway, I just decided to keep driving. And full disclosure, I was really well rested because I was stuck at Mundrabilla, Cocklebiddy, Kaiguna, and Norseman for a total of more than 4 hours. So I've had a fair bit of sleep, and I've gotten used to, actually sleeping when you need to. So in the end, I did the lap in 10 days, covering 13,554 Ks, overnighting at Nanyatara, Broome, Timber Creek, Daly Waters, Cloncurry, Rockhampton, Newcastle, Horsham, Nullarbor Roadhouse, and then back to Perth. So
that's really good run. Wow.
That's averaging 1,350 kilometers a day in an EV. So if there is anyone out there that owns an ICE car and says, yeah, but it might be all right driving around town, but you just can't take it on a decent road trip. Well, an idiot called yours truly did a rather decent road trip in 10 days in an EV. So
Get
not
them
only
to beat it, Harold.
Have you posted on the website the story, the saga? Have you posted?
I think the best part of the saga, they say pictures are worth 1,000 words. So
yeah,
so
go for it.
that picture there is it. You can see each day's progress: 1,200 Ks, 1,100 Ks, 1,300, 1,100, on and on. And really, once I hit, now this is something. This is something that sort of blew my mind. Was that from Camooweal, which is about here, just on the border, it's about 14 Ks from the Northern Territory border. So that is AC charging. And Nullarbor Roadhouse is also AC charging. But when I left Camooweal and first got to Mount Isa and onwards, every single charger along this path, all the way around, all the way up to Nullarbor Roadhouse, was done with fast DC chargers. And
wow,
that's kind of, I just find that surreal, because back in 2018, my very, very first DC charge was at Townsville up here. And my last DC charge was at Clare down here. So in 5 years, we've gone basically and added all the length of Queensland except for Camooweal itself, and we've penetrated towards Nullarbor Roadhouse on fast DC charging.
And a good chunk of WA would have been
right.
DC as well.
Sorry, and Ken, apologies. And so on day one, I basically charged at Jurien Bay, Northampton. I did have to stretch to Carnarvon, and then it was Nanyatara Roadhouse. And then on day two, I fast DC charged at Karratha. Then I had to do AC to Broome. But from Broome, I had to slow charge at Fitzroy Crossing about here, but I could fast charge at Halls Creek, Warman, and critically Kununurra. So I had intended to overnight at Kununurra, but I actually realised that was a waste of the fast DC charger at Kununurra. I would actually save a lot more time if I went through to Timber Creek, which is what I did. And that way I got to use the fast charging ability at Kununurra. So, and also on the return trip, on this ridiculous day 10, I fast charged at Coolgardie, Southern Cross, and Merredin. Now, something else that blew my mind was I rocked up at Coolgardie from Norseman. I had to slow charge at Norseman. I rocked up at Coolgardie with about 1%. It was on the cusp of 0/1%. It was 4 kilometers left. Now, what I was able to do in less than 20 minutes was able to get enough charge to get to Southern Cross. And then from Southern Cross to Merredin's only 109 Ks. I could, in less than 10 minutes, get to Merredin, and at Merredin less than 15 minutes. Oh, it was about 20 minutes get to Perth. So if you imagine that you had left Kalgoorlie, which is about 30 k's from Coolgardie, almost empty, like people might do on a road trip where they've just forgotten to charge their car. The beauty about the WEV network and fast DC charging is in less than 20 minutes, you can get on your way. Whereas if it was AC charging, it would take you 4 hours to get to the next place. So that's what I've learned on this journey is it's all about the fast DC chargers. And once you've got them, there is zero compromise. And yes, you can belt out an astounding number of Ks each day, which means that your EV is now no compromise. It is.
So Harold, did
Did
it feel really different when you were doing 50 kilowatt charges as opposed to on the faster charges?
Yeah, it did actually. That was highlighted in and this is funny to say too. 3 or 4 years ago, I would have thought that 50 kilowatt fast DC chargers was just the duck's nuts, and that's that's just fantastic. To be honest, and I don't want to sound ungrateful, but 50 kilowatt DC chargers is in our past. That is the equivalent of saying you want a hand cranked, or you want to have petrol in jerry cans, and you have to manually decant them in, compared to a normal Bowser. So it is quite slow. I was only doing high 200 kilometers of added range per hour. Now that sounds fast, but when you take the average elapsed time, it does slow you down. And really, you need to have at least 100 kilowatts, which is what the Kempower units deliver into our cars. That's what you need to have really effective charging. You don't really want to be to town for an hour. Half an hour, 20 minutes, that's cool. But a whole hour, you're starting to waste time. You really are, unfortunately. And thankfully, look, one of the marvelous things that TOCWA achieved, and I've got to really give an enormous shout out to Sandra Giri, really, from Synergy, because she single-handedly put the WAEV network project in a position where it could seek advice, and the most important advice that they sought and that they acted on was doubling the power of the chargers from 75 kilowatt dual outlet to 150 kilowatt. And that single change is so dramatic, and it will positively affect all of us using this network. And I found the same thing in South Australia, where thankfully most of the chargers are 150 kilowatts. In fact, I think they all are 150 or greater. And that makes such a tremendous difference. It really does. So 75s are great, but I just hope everyone else puts out 150s or higher.
Are you still in the standard range, or is yours long range?
Look, I'm going to call it a long range. It's actually, technically, it's a performance car, but critically, I've taken off the Uber turbines and I've put the standard Gemini wheels. Yeah. And the big reason for that is that it gives you a 12% increase in range by taking off the Uber turbines. And also, to be blunt, some of the road conditions, especially on the eastern seaboard, or even central Queensland, parts of the territory, are that bad that, look, I think George actually, I don't know if George is with us. George Nig. Oh yeah, George is with us. He popped, I think, at least 2 tires and wrecked several rims, out of hitting potholes and bad roads in his Model 3. So, to again turn back to the question, I would call it the equivalent of a long range Model Y, basically. Now, having said long range or whatever, you don't need a long range car. I mean, Pete and I did simultaneous laps last year in Tesla's shortest range car that they produce, which is the standard range Model Y. So it can be done. And when you've got fast DC charging, your range. So that's something else it still makes me feel tingly thinking about it. Once you hit fast DC charges, you don't care what your state of charge is. You don't care what your efficiency is. You don't care about how many Ks under the speed limit you have to go to optimize your trip. You just go down the highway and don't worry about anything. As long as you've got spacing that's a couple of 100 Ks apart or less, you don't have to worry about range. You don't have to worry about efficiency. That's the key. It's only when you're doing the long stretches at the moment, temporarily, that it has an effect. Alrighty. Any?
Well, I think
so I've got a couple of hands up. Sorry, Christian, you got your hand up.
Sorry, I hit the wrong. I think James was beforehand, but I just want to, because it ties into what you just said, just want to say we did just a recent trip down to Albany, and because we have kids being next to the playground, I just used the WA EV network charger at Williams, which, I mean, those Kempower chargers are a real treat. With, you guys know that you can check how it charges, you can have it live on your phone. It's also really nice. But I was a bit surprised, like giving this really nice parking lot and being able that possibly a trailer can come in, that this is, I think it even says it's limited to 125, and realistically I could only get, with a nicely pre-warmed battery and like lowish state of charge, 117 is the max. Only one car, no one else was charging. And looking into like when a possible future that could be expanded, I was like a bit worried about like, do they not have any more capacity at that station? Is this really the limit that it can draw there currently?
Yep. So the reason why you were getting 117 kilowatts is because of your battery voltage. So the limit of the station is the limit of the current that it can put into your car. And these are air-cooled, passively cooled cables. So their maximum current rating is 300 amps. Now, I personally believe that can be pushed higher. And that's something that I'm trying to achieve, but I've got to be very gentle with this sort of thing. The stated limit maximum current of those cables is 300 amps. So for example, so basically your car's voltage is approximately
400.
Well, it would have been approximately high 300 volts. So it's basically 300 amps times high 300 volts is the power that goes into your car. The charger is capable of putting out 150 kilowatts. So if you had an 800 volt pack car, it can deliver the 150 kilowatts within the 300 amp budget. So that's the issue, Christian. That's the thing. Now, and that's just what the way the cables are configured.
The 150, what you're saying is actually
Also
150 max is to basically take into account two cars at the same time, 75, 75. Then
So I've observed two cars simultaneously charging, both each getting 69 kilowatts each.
Nice.
So possibly even 69.42, might be an extra 420 watts there as well for each car. But that
squeeze it, Harold, squeeze it.
So you've got your full power coming out when both cars are connected. And like I said, once we get our Cybertrucks will be able to charge at the best part of 150 kilowatts once they come out, and if there's only one Cybertruck at that place at a time.
So basically the Tesla VCs, they have bigger cables so they can go up to 250 kilowatts with the 400 volt.
It actually gets a bit more technical than that. The CCS limit, so if you went to the RAC headquarters in town in Perth, there's a Tritium 350 kilowatt charger. The most you'll ever get out of that is about 200 kilowatts, because the CCS standard, global standard, has a maximum current delivery of 500 amps. So again, 400 volts times 500 amps is 200 kilowatts. Tesla's famous in pushing limits and doing what is the maximum that can be done with active cooling, and they're not shy in jamming 625 amps into our 400 volt cars, which is why you can get 250 kilowatts. But that's beyond the CCS standard.
Okay. Thank you.
Alrighty.
That's great.
But also, Harold, it is possible that in the future the cables could be upgraded to liquid cooled cables, correct, on the Kempowers?
It's possible, but highly unlikely. Look, what I'm trying to do is I've actually done a couple of tests, because I'm great at turning up nearly empty, so my car will take always the maximum it can take, and it usually draws about 100 kilowatts plus for about 10 minutes. Once, this is on my long range / performance Y, once your battery gets up to about 40%, it then starts tapering off. So it goes from 113 kilowatts down to below 100 fairly quickly after you get to about 40% state of charge. But in the 10 minutes where I was taking the full 110 kilowatts, you hold onto the cable and it's barely blood warm. So and as an electronics engineer, I fully understand that cable can take more. So, even if that more was an extra 50 amps, that would be a meaningful amount of extra power delivered early on. But, it's something that we just got to approach carefully, and, maybe that we can get a little bit of progress on extra power.
And that was it. And that was even in warm weather in the sun.
Yeah, that's right. Not in winter. This is look, even in Warman and in Halls Creek, where it was bloody hot, it barely gets above blood warm. Those cables really are quite thick, and I'm 100% certain they can take more. Whether Kempower / whoever, whoever's controlling those chargers agrees is another matter. But either way, the thing is, if you turn up on a low state of charge, in 10 minutes you'll get 100 Ks, in 20 minutes you'll get 200 Ks, and in 30 minutes you'll get 300 Ks, as long as you turned up on a low state of charge. Now,
but the next 100 Ks after that,
next 100 Ks takes half an hour. So the last 100 Ks to get you from 300 to 400 Ks takes half an hour. It's not worth it. And that's why the interval between all these DC charges is approximately 200 kilometers. Now, that's something I learned on day one of the trip. I had to fully charge at Northampton because I had to travel 425 kilometers to Carnarvon. So rather than charging for 20 minutes and then another 20 minutes at Overlander to make it to Carnarvon, I had to charge for a whole hour and probably 5 minutes to be fully charged so that I could make it in one hit. So that's the difference it makes. Now, speaking of low states of charge, an awesome thing in WA, we don't really get to string superchargers in a line because we sort of don't really have enough of them to do that. The awesome thing about road tripping with a continuous line of superchargers is it will actually it'll tell you there's enough charge in your battery for you to make it to your next destination with 13% state of charge. And the great thing is your car basically does it, plus or minus a couple of %. And it's great for people who are a bit nervous and have a bit of range anxiety. Please trust your car. Please trust Tesla, especially on superchargers. Just get used to being confident of using all of your battery pack, because that's what it's there for. You've paid for it.
We should just make one qualification. Don't trust it if you're in WA and there's no more superchargers on routes to your destination, because it'll probably turn you back around. So,
oh yes, yeah, and that's one other thing, and I've said this a few times. Do watch what your navigation is doing, because look, I've had it where it's told me to. I've just left somewhere. I've been 50 kilometers from somewhere, and it's told me to turn around. I forget where this was actually. Oh, it was at Clare, because Clare is the last supercharger in South Australia on the lap. So around about here, and I was about 50 k's out of Clare on my way to Port Augusta, and I sort of redid the route, and it basically told me to turn around. I suddenly thought, why is it saying go around? Have I missed a turn or something? It was like, no, it wanted me to go back to the supercharger to charge more fully so I could, I don't know, make it to Port Augusta or something. So do watch that when you're on the far end of a supercharger. In other words, the supercharger's behind you and you're going away from it. Just watch. And there is a little blue button where you can go remove charging stops, because otherwise, if you're not paying attention, it will direct you backwards back to where you just came from.
Yeah, I've found that happens. Oh, sorry.
Gotcha.
Just more on what you were saying. I found because in Tassie you drive between Hobart and Launceston, and Devonport is the other side of those two cities, and that's where the supercharger is.
Yep.
So you try driving south of Hobart, keeps on telling you to go back 100 k's to the supercharger, when you know there are 350k charges on the way. But one thing I found that it changed a few months ago is that when you're navigating somewhere, if you're getting to a turn, it will slow down for you. And so what it was doing, it was saying, make a U-turn, and it would slow down on the highway all the time for me, saying, okay, now's the time to make a U-turn. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. So like you say, you can turn off the route planner so it doesn't try and go back there. But then it's not preheating the battery for my 350 kilowatt charger that I'm going to. So you have to pick and choose which one you want.
Except it won't, Chuck, because it doesn't know it's a 350 kilowatt charger, so it won't do a precondition anyway.
That's right. But if it thinks it's navigating you back to the supercharger, then it'll start preconditioning.
Yes, that's right. Yes, yeah. True.
You can get the sexy button.
Yes,
yeah,
you can get a
sexy buttons and manually precondition.
Yeah.
Now,
for anyone using the 150 kilowatt Kempower chargers, you do not need to do it. I have, again, personally used quite a few of them on different circumstances, and I've had a fairly cool pack, and I've never had to precondition. It's never affected me getting 115 kilowatts. So for any of those WA chargers, don't worry about it. You don't need preconditioning. Okay, so sorry, James has had his hand up very patiently, and then I'll go straight to you straight after Des.
Post a question, not from a point of view as you as a madman trying to do a hot lap, but how does it feel as a family guy with maybe some kids in the car driving in that DC section, and not having to pre-plan and be able to drive to, hey, it's raining a bit, I'll slow down, it's sunny, I'll speed up. There's a happy hour on, I'll speed up. What's it feel like? What's the difference?
James, I can answer that question from experience. So last Christmas, I went to visit my brother in Sydney, and he's got a 3 and a Y, and we did a road trip via Canberra to Melbourne packed with 2 kids and a wife in each car. So there was 8 of us together. And on the way back from Melbourne to Sydney, we just went direct from Melbourne to Sydney. It feels absolutely wonderful. It's just like, it's no different to driving a ICE car. I literally did 0 planning. When we left Melbourne, all I did is just put Sydney in the nav, and it came up with about 12 or 15 different superchargers to choose from. It chose 2 of them. We only needed to use 2. Both times, both of our cars were charged to 100%. We didn't even need to charge to 100, but both of them were charged to 100% before our food even came out, both times. So it was actually annoying because we had to go out and repark the cars. So, but yeah, so
it's on a sign that said like art show or woodwork or free wine. You could just turn off and not care.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There's just zero planning, zero thought. You go the speed limit and you just charge until it tells you that you've finished charging. And, most of the charges, both of the charges, I think on one of them we were the only 2 cars there, and the other one there was maybe one more car out of 6 stalls. So, yeah, it was just zero stress, zero worry, zero planning. It was just a dream.
Get out to Sandra's doing it, but that's the message we probably need to get out to everybody, that get in your car and go country because of what Western Power's done.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
I can contrast that. We did a trip to Hayden. The first week we got our Model 3 performance in 2019, and that was very stressful, and even with the kids. And we had to stay an extra 3 or 4 hours charging off a 15 amp plug to have enough charge to get back home to Perth, especially with the wind. With the wind in our face heading back. But yeah, going to Hayden, highly stressful. Going from Melbourne to Sydney, a 950-kilometre trip, no stress, no planning. That's the difference that Tesla superchargers make.
Just for Harold.
Yes, James.
Is that charging limit like just a safe number they've hard coded in? Doesn't take into account any heat sensors or anything like that? So they just say, hey, it could be middle of the day or...
It's a maximum setting, so it's set as part of the Kempower unit, that it's set to a maximum delivery of 300 amps. And the thing that sort of frustrates me a little bit is the actual head, the plug, has a temperature sensor built in, so it's monitoring the pins and also by extension the cable as well. And the car has also got a temperature sensor, so both systems, the car and the charger, are monitoring temperatures. So, in my opinion, and actually in my professional opinion, there is no, and this is why Tesla goes beyond the CCS limit, because many standards are very conservative, so they'll have a worst case, a number, and in CCS the worst case number is 500 amps. Tesla blasts right through that. And as far as the air-cooled, passively cooled, or you call it uncooled cable, for the Kempowers and their Phoenix contact cables, they have been rated as a maximum of 300 amps, and that's just it. So that's what the setting is.
There's
and again,
no technical reason they couldn't change it to run off the sensors. Understanding on a 42-degree day, back-to-back zero arrivals, it's going to throttle down, but you arrive early or late in the evening, you can get full whack.
Precisely. So again, don't get me wrong, getting a mere 115 odd kilowatts and gaining 100 k's of range in 10 minutes, if nothing else happens, that is still awesome and an amazing achievement. Full stop. Absolutely. So all I'm seeking now is just improving the margins, just for throughput, because on a busy weekend, what we want is for these chargers to be crowded and overcrowded and overutilized, and for people to complain, and for it to start to affect people's holidays, because that then means that other businesses will come in and augment that system and start making money out of it. Ironically, you sometimes have to have a little bit of pain to get the gain. And I'm looking forward to that pain being so many cars overwhelmingly doing road trips that start to fully utilize and overutilize these chargers, so we can get more, and so we can get superchargers. Tesla knows where our cars are going, and the great thing is now they'll be going all over the place very soon. Now, speaking of going all over the place, and I'm going to get to you, Des, and then Paul, is the Hayden WIEV network is making some extraordinary progress, and that is going to be one of the next sites to come online, which is fantastic. So just thought I'd do that little segue there for road tripping, and going on the back of Pete saying that was one of the places where he had a less than great experience. All right, Des, you're up next.
Thanks. You've sort of answered the question, but how do you know when to stop charging? You say you charge for about 20 minutes. Is a percentage, or does it give you a notification that it's slowing down or whatever?
Yeah, okay. So obviously it's, if you just left it, it would keep charging until it got to the limit that you set in your car. So if your car is a LFP standard range Model Y, you should always have your slider set to 100%. The only time it would ever be less than that is, say, if you went to the Karrinyup supercharger, which is a supercharger site that's very busy these days. And what Tesla will do is, when you plug into the supercharger and it's highly occupied, it will automatically set your slider down to 80%, which you can then override if you need to. But for the sake of your other fellow Tesla owners who want to use Karrinyup when it's busy, unless you really do need to, please don't adjust it back up to 100, because the intention there is to get you charged quickly so that you can then park somewhere else or whatever, go home, so that other cars can utilize it. But in general, it's the Kempower or whatever charger will keep charging until your state of charge meets the slider to whatever level that's set to.
Yeah, I've got the standard range, so the LFP. Yep. So if I go down to hard and whatever, just charge to 100% wherever.
Yes. Now, obviously, if you're on the WEV network and you're on a road trip, like let's imagine you want to get to Monkey Mia.
Yeah.
You shouldn't charge to 100% at Jurien Bay, because you only need to top up at Jurien enough to get to, say, Northampton. And you only need to charge to sort of like 3/4. So, I mean, leave it up to 100%, but once you've got 3/4 or you've got enough to make it to Geraldton or Northampton, just disconnect. Now, the great thing is you can obviously monitor how things are going. Us Tesla owners are fortunate that we've got amazing apps, but if you don't, there's actually a QR code that shows up on the screen on the Kempower, and you can just take you wave your camera on your phone towards it and then just pick up the website, and that's a specific website for you, for your charging session, and it shows you the progress, and it actually profiles the cars. So Kempower units are pretty clever. They can monitor battery voltage and current, and they can actually predict what brand and model of car you have, even though there's no communications way of doing that. They infer it from the way your car behaves, and it can predict how long it will take for your car to get to 40%, 60%, 80%, and 100%. So you've always got good information from the Kempower units as to how you're going.
Thank you.
No worries. All right, Paul, you're next.
Oh, thanks, guys. Harold, I was just two things. Have you or do you plan to document your trip? Because what you've said so far sounds fascinating. And the second thing is, you mentioned that you replaced your wheels. What was involved with that? Where did you source them? What was the cost approximately?
Yep.
Okay, so really interesting.
So documenting, look, I'm such a lazy sod. I really am. I don't mind sitting on my bum all day being driven by my car, but I'm not that great at spieling long paragraphs of stuff. Look, I mean, I guess I've documented it on X as posts. So every place I arrive, I basically say, I've arrived at whatever, having driven X kilometers from the previous place, and I got an efficiency of whatever, and then I'll say what I'm charging on or charging with. So I guess you can just look at that in a time order, chronological order, and when I'm at my last charge, I'll say how many Ks I did that day and what the subtotal
Right.
for the tour was.
The map's good.
Yeah. So look, if you just look on X, Tokwa also reposted that pinned post, which is basically this map. So this map sort of tells you what basically happened. And like I said, you can look through my X posts, but there's not a lot of point in me sort of then doing an essay about it, because look, every experience is different. I mean, I don't know if you want to hear about how many times friggin' dozens of cows just wander across the road in the Northern Territory, and it scares the absolute crap out of you, and and how many bush pigs I saw running across the road, and oh god, how many cane toads I squashed and they exploded under my tires and stuff like that.
That's good.
Yeah, I prefer that's
great.
the raw numbers. The raw numbers are good enough, for something like this. Alrighty.
The tires, the wheels.
Oh, so sorry. Yeah, so I actually bought them. I've got 2 sets, except one set's still in the Gold Coast because I'm having a bit of a trouble trying to get them shipped to me in a reasonable price. But I also ended up buying another set of Gemini wheels from a gentleman in Perth who had them up on, I think it was Facebook, and they cost me $2,300 or $400, $2,400 I think, for the set, and they happened to be brand spanking new. They were.
Wow.
He literally got his car, and a few days later he got aftermarket wheels. So I got his Geminis, and they were literally brand new tires and wheels.
Snabble, what a snabble! That's good.
But that included the tires, the TPMS, the sensors, and rims, the whole package. Yeah.
Yep.
Because there's a few on Facebook selling at a similar price, but rims only. But the tires, the tires will be another $1,200 to $1,500 on top. So plus the sensors are $60 a wheel as well.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, guys. That's great.
And following on for that, if there's one criticism I can make of Tesla is I do hope at some stage they have a no-cost option for people with performance cars to downgrade, if you want to call it that, to the standard Geminis. Anyone that does road tripping, you're mad not to. You really are, especially if you go over east, because the roads are in some pretty crappy conditions. They really are pretty crappy. And anyway, Christian, you got your hand up patiently.
Two things. Just wanted to comment on Des's question about how much to charge. So if you want to just quickly scroll up in the chat, I basically posted my ChemPower profile of the charge session at Williams. So we were going back from Albany. We weren't charged up fully. So we arrived at Williams at about 22% state of charge. And it was telling me that, like in the Tesla app, that going home to Bayswater, I would arrive at minus 17 or minus 20%. So I knew that at the bare minimum, I wanted to charge that plus some extra. So because I also didn't want to pay super much extra on the 60 cents a kilowatt hour, I was like, I want to get that plus another 20-ish%. So if I have to run some errands at home, no problem. So I charged from the 22% to basically 59, 60%. That actually only, you can see, it only took 18 minutes to get there. And I was done at a very, very reasonable cost. So essentially the navigation system will tell you what you will arrive with, and you just make sure you definitely have that plus some buffer you're comfortable with. Now, if of course you want to like sit somewhere in a cafe and you want to like not run out and stuff like this, these couple dollars more might not bother you, but it's pretty straightforward. So that's how I assess that. And I've I find that super easy. The second question that I have is, you guys know if the Kempower WEEV network Ravensthorpe will be possibly live by the end of this year, or is there no chance? It would really help me.
Frustratingly, the Ravensthorpe site has been fully installed by Synergy since about the second week of October. And the only thing it is waiting for is Western Power to install and commission a transformer. That Western Power is not part of the WAEV network project. The project is wholly being delivered by Horizon Power, who do their own thing, that they are end-to-end vertically integrated. And the other part of the project is Synergy, and all they can do is whatever feeds off the network. They don't provide the connection to the network. That is Western Power. And Western Power have no key performance indicators connected to the WAEV network project. Western Power and Synergy share the same minister, that being the Minister for Energy, the Honourable Bill Johnston. And all I can say is that if anyone wants to use the Ravensthorpe charger for these school holidays, please contact the minister and make him well aware of the situation, that you are not happy that this location is stalled.
It could be done.
It all it needs is a jolly green box. Probably weighs about a ton or whatever it is, and it needs to be plonked next to that which has already been installed and connected. Once it's done, rest assured that Synergy and their installation contractors would commission it very promptly. Very promptly. So that's the only.
I mean, Ravensthorpe is a really good connect. Like, I mean, you guys know that Ravensthorpe is a really good place to sort of top up going to Esperance. So for me, like, it's 400 something. So we would have to really strive slowly to get all the way to. I mean, there are a couple of options in between. But as you said, like, if there are the DC chargers available, you know, we have to think about. You just drive, you rock up, you fill up, and you're done. You know, within like a couple minutes, 18 minutes, I was done, right? So yeah, I mean, I'm not preaching to you guys, you know it, but
no, but actually, now there is some good. I have got some good news. So I have got some good news. Let me just bring the map up. So this map, it's color coded, and that's obviously out of date because Coolgardie ought to be green. Now, I am aware that Norseman is about to be commissioned. So an alternative, I know it's an extra couple of 100 kilometres, but an alternative is to go from Perth to Merredin, Southern Cross, Coolgardie, Norseman, and then Esperance.
No, thank you. But I think we are not Jeremiah. There's another one with Jay. We're gonna go down to Williams and then Jeremiah. That's where we're gonna stay overnight, I think. Which one? No, sorry, Lake Grace. Sorry,
Lake Grace. Oh, right, yes.
Lake Grace, we're gonna stay there overnight. Because with the kids, 700 Ks going down to Esperance is it's not fun in a day. They're just too young for that. So we're gonna stay in Lake Grace, but then Lake Grace to Esperance. Like, I just have to top up somewhere just a little bit in order to make that work.
At Ravensthorpe, there is actually I'm going to call it a slow DC charger, and that's at the BP. So
is that going? Is that working? Because I thought
it is working. Yeah. So if you look, it's got a rating of 10, and the last check-in was on the 27th of November. It's only 19-ish kilowatts, 19 or 20 kilowatts, but it's better than the alternative. It's better than nothing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can use
might just do that.
And the Ravensthorpe one, the WAEV network, you can see it there. it is absolutely finished. It's been bagged for its own protection, and it is ready to go. It's just, and that green box is not the transformer. That's what it's waiting for. As frustrating as that is.
Yes. Well,
so
here's hoping.
Please don't be shy to voice your collective displeasure to the Minister for Energy, who is responsible. He's the minister responsible for what Western Power does, or more importantly, does not do. And you know, the more people that can voice their displeasure, the better.
I'll back up what Harold says. It does work if you go to the minister, and as he says, the more the better. It will do something.
Well, actually, Steve, I'm going to out Steve in the room. He made contact to our former Premier, and that very, very much was heard and acted upon. So, you know, it's sometimes you've just got to push. Yep. And that was actually that sent ripples down the chain. So, as it should, because it's just not reasonable that Western Power should be holding back such an important infrastructure project. In fact, I'd argue it's probably, well, it's just as significant as the very first petrol stations that were ever installed in Western Australia. This is a paradigm shift, and we're at the start of it, and that's how important it is.
It's critical public infrastructure. That's what it is. Nothing less, nothing more.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's something that you just can't underscore that enough. That's how important it is. It's the most important thing. Now I'm going to get to you, James, in just 2 seconds. Christian, you were talking about, you know, turning up with not much. This is what you can do. You turn up with nothing, and in 23 minutes, you're at, you know, 55%. That's how you do road tripping. That's how you wring out the most benefit out of these things. And I only maxed out at 112 kilowatts. But that's me turning up empty as if I had forgotten to charge and being on the road to the next place in 23 minutes. That's the power of these chargers. Really okay, cool. James.
We need the masses.
Gotcha.
Yep, we need people using them. I put a photograph in there. Me charging at Baldivis, not Baldivis. Baldivis off the freeway in the actual suburb. Picked up. My daughter got last minute tickets to Coldplay on Sunday, so she went to Coldplay. We picked up her at 11 o'clock at night. Drove her down to Levers, turned around and came back home again. But the stupidity of this. They've got a beautiful Ampol service station open 24 hours a day on the freeway, servicing thousands of people. You pull off the freeway, you come to use this one because it's the only charger they've got. Shop's closed, can't use a toilet, can't buy a drink. You go to Hungry Jack's around the corner, all the kids wanted to go to a McDonald's, no toilets. It's just, how do we get that message through to people that, you know what, families, we don't get time to plan everything. It happens. So we picked them up from Coldplay. They needed a toilet and they were hungry. And so where do you stop? We could have, mind you, we could have gone to Eton, but that would have meant stopping at Eton, then going on to Dunsborough. Stopping here meant we thought toilet break, food break, all the way to Dunsborough, drop the kids off, turn around. We had a 40-minute sleep at Eton, and then we got back home, 6:30, showered, changed, went to work.
Oh, my God.
What idiots. Yeah. But what idiots. Like, why do you put a charger in the middle of a suburb with everything closed, and literally 5 minutes down the road, you've got an Ampol 24 hours a day with hundreds of cars going past it? Rant over.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And a good one too, James. Very good. All right. Anyone else got any comments or questions, or, hey, rants? I'll take a rant anytime.
Well, since I'm on a roll, sorry guys. I just on the Tesla Slack channel, something came up that this week, I guess many of the fast DC chargers within the Perth metropolitan area were really either super highly used or broken. A lot of the ampoles were actually not working for the CCS or were out of commission. And a lot more people do like ride shares or other things. So they do they do need to actually charge up somewhere. And it's actually also a good thing if we get more and more like taxis and stuff to use electric cars also for our air quality. So I think it would be great. I don't know what needs to happen there, but that also like the metropolitan areas around, especially around the airport, getting like more options to just charge things up for those guys, right? I mean, that should be a business case. That should be like something that should somehow work.
Yeah, okay, so it's true that originally on the WAEV network, they had scoped to have about four chargers, and TOCWA lobbied to delete all but one of them because the purpose of the WAEV network was to bring accessibility across the state.
100%.
And Christian, I do get your point about Uber drivers and similar, and I'll get to the solution of that in a moment. But they had originally dimensioned 4.
I completely understand what you're saying. Like, and there is no question, and I would never like this was absolutely the right choice. And that you guys put your foot down and say like, take away this charter mode thing that is really out of date. Like use 2 CCS, all of that perfectly too. But now the question is like where we go from here. Like what as a community. Yeah.
So what the deletion of those 3 chargers did was afford the ability to put a charger at Brookton, which was not part of the original plan, and at Hyden. And that's a significant gain because that opens up all that southwest area, that wheat belt area, and gives you multiple paths to Esperance, for example. Now, one way of alleviating the issues of Uber drivers and people that do need to charge daily or in the daytime is, for example, this site, which is in North Coogee, which is a 6-stall supercharger site, which is getting pretty close to being finished. So that's at North Coogee. Now, that is not obviously at the airport, but one thing I do know is, and this was when the Karrinyup supercharger was being finished off, and I was talking to the contractor, I don't remember what company it was. And interestingly, this guy actually claimed that they were doing I think they call it a load study at the DFO at the airport. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. And I made a beeline straight there. And strangely, they'd kind of, near where the AC charger is at the DFO, they'd gotten rid of some of the concrete curbing in one section near where the AC charger is. And I thought, wow, that's it. Tesla's going to put a supercharger right there. And this was just as Karrinyup was being finished off. But then a few weeks later, they reinstated the curbing, which I thought was really strange. And clearly Tesla's not going there now. But I think it's highly likely that Tesla will, in a reasonable amount of time, put a supercharger site somewhere near the airport because you need it for Uber drivers and similar ride sharers and stuff like that. So, and I presume increasingly taxis will become Teslas as well because it just makes sense, So
there was. And rental cars as well.
And rental cars, yeah, that's exactly right. So, but it's not really a role for the WAV network, but certainly, and look, frustratingly, yeah, I mean, Ampol's going to have 38 fast DC chargers in Greater Perth. That's bounded by Yanchep to the north and Mandurah to the south. 38 locations. And as James said, some of them might be crappy where you haven't got 24-hour services, but they are coming, Christian. They are coming to Perth. absolutely.
No, it's
And
good.
you know,
It's good.
and there is a supercharger that we know about that is coming to Central Perth as well. So we know that's coming.
Nice.
So
that's great.
You know, so
It's
it is happening. It is happening. Perth will finally get its mythical actual Perth supercharger, which was promised back in 2017.
Cool.
And like I said, the Coogee one that's probably only a week or so away from being commissioned. It's effectively finished. There's just there's other images I took today. It's just like bits I have to clean up, you know, crates and empty bits and pieces, you know, just stuff. So
is it also true that Kogenup will get possibly a supercharger? I read that somewhere.
Oh yes, absolutely, yes,
official?
and it'll be co-located with the WIEV network charger location, as will be Albany. So Albany is also, and that's completely official. That's nothing secret because it's in the council meeting minutes. Tesla will be putting a 6-stall supercharger at Albany.
Yeah, because that old 50 kilowatt Tritium charger at Kogenup on our way back, because we took a break there, tested out, absolutely nothing. That thing is cooked. I think you even I actually saw the messages on Blackshare that you even said like there's something fundamentally broken with that charger.
Without wanting to slag off Tritium, even if they deserve it, those RT units, I don't think there's a single RT unit, that's the 50 kilowatt unit, the old-fashioned unit. None of them are older than about 7 years old, I think. There's not a single one of them that I'm aware of that hasn't broken down. And some of them, the one in Coburn I think they've basically given up on it because it just costs too much to fix. I know John Edwards has got a fleet of them and almost all of them are broken. You know, one of the things I was really nervous about on the trip was I went and took the risk and used the Tritium at Kaiguna. Bearing in mind, now this is a good news story. Kaiguna is under new management. That's the Kaiguna Roadhouse with the 50 kilowatt crowd-funded Tritium charger. And under new management, the staff are awesome. They're amazing. But, you know, nervously, this thing took 2 resets before it worked. So, and that's the unit that I lugged on the back of my Model X, on Richard Chapman's now Model X, because the original one broke an internal power supply. So those old Tritiums are not fit for purpose. Every single one of them should be decommissioned and replaced with something else. So anyway.
I just want to say the final thing. I saw you already posted and checked in. There's it is a Tritium charger, but at the Valligny in the wheat belt. And while it's not super fast, I actually 4 weeks before it was commissioned, I actually drove there and we had a really good trip and we were at the farm with some friends, but it was a painful 10 amp charge to get back up and get home. So it's amazing to see that even these towns that are really remote at least have some option for us EV drivers to get there and get back. I mean, get there is easy. Getting back is the point where, you know, you have to plan a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, it's at the Discovery Centre, and look, it's an RTM. I have been aware that there were some issues with the RTM units. This is the new style of 50 kilowatt charger, but I believe most of those issues have now been permanently resolved for the time being. So yeah, and good on the show of Dalwallinu. Again, that's a great segue actually, Christian, to highlight the fact that is actually along the Great Northern Highway, and something that Minister Johnston just needs to not say, I won't say no, but just say yes, and put and extend the WAEV network along the Great Northern Highway.
100%. 100%.
That's the last thing that Minister Johnston needs to do to the WAEV network, is extend it up the Great Northern Highway.
100%.
Alrighty. Has anyone else got any questions or other comments?
Harold, are you able to pull up that photo of Hayden that I posted on Facebook earlier, and have a close-up look of the backup charger? Does it look like the old 7 kilowatt, or I thought Hayden was going to get a 22 kilowatt backup?
They look the same, Pete. They're identical. Almost identical. From the outside, they look exactly the same. So in much the same way as if you get a Tesla wall connector, so for $750 from Tesla to use at home, you can connect it to 3-phase and get 11 kilowatts. Or if you've only got a single-phase house, you connect it to single-phase and get 7.6, 32 amps single-phase. So
are you able to zoom in at that board at all?
No, but Pete, like I just said, the two units are literally externally identical. So
let me rephrase the question. Do we know if Hayden's getting a 22 kilowatt backup, or if it's going to be the old 7 kilowatt? Because I think I recall Sandra saying that because Hayden wasn't installed as yet, it would get the 22 kilowatt backup.
Yes, in which case I would take that as probably a yes, because she did actually explain that for any sites that weren't yet constructed, they would all be definitely 22 kilowatts. And then she also explained that
some sites might be retrofitted.
Sites where it's possible and practical, they would be upgraded to 22 kilowatts. Bearing in mind there's a bit of a cost in that. It's not just cable, it's also which I think is crazy, but anyway, the JetCharge who build the ChargeMate units, the AC units, they either fit a single-phase NMI compatible separate meter internal to the unit, or a 3-phase meter. And I guess they do that because the single-phase meter is probably a few $dozen cheaper than the 3-phase version. So they've got to actually upgrade the ChargeMates. Look, if it's $100, I'll eat my hat. Because if you look at the Fronius meters, they're only about $100 difference between a single phase and a 3-phase. So
are the Fronius ones revenue grade?
I'm not certain, to be honest. I'm not certain, but the point is, it's most of the cost is it's the central processing. It's whether there is one input or three. That it's not 3 times the price. Trust me. So
no, I'm not. Yeah.
But anyway,
I know.
You're up.
Sorry, go, Harold.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cool. No worries. All right. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I got one more.
Flying to Sydney on the weekend.
Oh, sorry. I thought that was. Sorry, go Peter, and then James. Go Peter.
Yeah, I've got solar panels and a 5 kilowatt solar battery, and I was away in Port Ellen for 2 weeks. So when the wife got back from the airport, she plugged the car in, it was 25%. So what I was doing was every day when the battery was 100%, every morning I would put about 10 kilowatts in my car. With that 80% rule, I ended up putting about, because she didn't go out much because it was too hot, I ended up putting about 95% charge in the car before she took the car out. Is that going to hurt the battery at all? Like it's just in the house charging.
Is it a long range car?
No, it's performance.
Performance, okay. Look, no, not really. So, like, don't worry too much. And this is even if you took it to 100% and you left it at 100% for a day, you haven't killed your battery. You're just slightly accelerating it's a minor little bit of degradation. That's all. So, but but 95% is a big difference to 100%. So you can sort of equate it to, if you imagine the lithium ions, so they're actual atoms of lithium, move from one side of the battery foil to the other side. And it's a little bit like if you're in a bar and the bar is empty, the ions go in there easy. It's like people going into a bar.
Yeah.
When it's full, that's when it gets, the temperature goes up, as in like people get hot and it's uncomfortable and all that sort of stuff. So 95% for a while, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just try not to do that too often. What I mean is leaving it at 95%. There's absolutely zero issue in charging one of those performance or long range cars, or the older standard range Model 3s that have the NCA chemistry. You can tell because when you look at your slider, your charge slider, it has the words daily and trip. If your car does not have the words daily and trip on the slider, you can absolutely charge it to 100% all day, every day. But if it does have daily and trip, preferably you should set it to 80%. But if you're on a road trip, absolutely set it to 100%, get it to 100%, and then it's appropriate to then, once it's at 100%, don't leave it at that state for more than, say, half an hour or an hour, preferably.
No,
I just and then just drive off.
95% left it.
Look, 95 is not a big issue, not at all. Don't worry about it. But just don't try and do it. But don't try to avoid doing it in future. Just
the battery tired, so I won't be there. I'll be home now.
Yeah. I mean, look, if she's not using it, one thing you could do is, I mean, if you're really worried about it, you could just ask her to, or you could just do it. Just turn the aircon on, and it'll, or turn Sentry mode on actually. So often Sentry mode is turned off at home because you set it that way. If you just turn Sentry mode on for 12 hours or a day, it'll burn down to below 90%. But make sure the slider is actually back to below the level that the battery is. Otherwise, when it's plugged in, it will always maintain that level. So just move the slider down to less
I've
than...
been controlling from my phone when I'm away.
Yep.
I tell it when to charge and when not to charge.
Yep.
And when I got it to 95%, I just didn't let it charge anymore.
Yes.
I did it off my phone and I was 2,000 miles away, whatever it is, 2 hours flight away.
Yep. Yeah. But like I said, don't worry about it. You haven't ruined your battery pack or anything like that. There'll be the minusculest amount of degradation, like, I don't know, probably a millimetre of range or a centimetre of range that you might have potentially lost. It's nothing. It really is nothing.
Yeah, I wasn't too concerned about it. I was just curious.
Yeah. No worries. Alrighty. Anyone? My God, I've got 2 Petes. What the?
Double trouble.
Wow, that's that.
I had to build in some redundancy. I've got a problem with my network. That's why I was late in connecting up. So I'm getting sound from one and picture from the other. So
very good. 2 Petes are barely enough. Alrighty. Has anyone else got any other questions or comments? I'm certainly
I'm flying to Sydney on the week.
Go, James.
Flying to Sydney. My work only hires through Hertz, so I'm stuck with a Polestar too. Is there any penance, any fines, or any problems?
I think your driving experience will be enough penance, James.
I suggest public flogging.
And and I'm sorry to report that James is also one of TOCWA's new committee members. So perhaps he should be banished off the committee. What do you reckon, Pete? That
means he'd be gone before he even started.
That's right. Sorry, James. We've decided to reduce the committee down to 7 members, and you're the first one in.
I did try
first
to
one
change
out. So last one in, first one out.
I did try to change the flight. Apparently, they only do the Teslas from Canberra, but the wife wouldn't fly into Canberra and drive to Sydney from there.
Oh, it's a great drive.
Counties are working.
I enjoyed that on the way to Horsham. That was awesome, just zooming past. Yeah, don't worry about it. I'd like to find out your opinion, because everyone I know that's driven in the Polestar 3 has not enjoyed it. But especially the back seat, apparently is really uncomfortable.
I'll act a video in. If you want to watch the first 30 seconds, it's Revel ride shares in New York, and just shows you how they manage their charging in New York City. They've got hundreds of these little blue Teslas running around everywhere.
It's just loading. Oh. Sorry, is that the video that you sent? So oh, here we go. YouTube.
So many freaking Teslas. What the heck? This video is brought to you by Nokian Tires, a leader in safety and system. Them are ripping along. You can see stretching cables around. These are all pretty much Revel, of course, all Revel rideshare vehicles here charging.
Are these the tritium chargers?
Yes, they are. Tritium RTMs.
Well, good luck to them.
Yeah, right.
Like you see how they're parked, but when he goes down to the next layer, that's where they're charging. But the next layer down is just where they're parked, and they're literally parked higgledy-piggledy anywhere you want. But I wouldn't worry about companies and rideshare companies. If they're going to make money, they'll find out a way to charge them.
Yeah, well, that's true. And, Uber is getting very much into EVs. And I think it's not unreasonable to expect that they might install some chargers for their drivers, since they're spruiking EVs as the way to go, and they're actively seeking out EVs as Uber cars. And I think,
what I'm excited about is, I don't know if it was in the previous news, is like that Tesla's now selling their superchargers to third parties so they can brand it. Like that is epic. If that would be really cool. That would be really cool. Can't wait to see that here.
There was a deal for
in
excess of $100 million for BP in the States. And you're right, Christian, that is very exciting, because it just demonstrates what we already know, which is the Tesla supercharger system is the most reliable on Earth, and probably the cheapest as well, because Tesla is vertically integrated and they can internalize those profits. So they can produce, and that's what Tesla's stated goal is. Elon Musk talks about the idiot index, which is the difference between the raw material cost and the finished product's cost. And if you can't get those two to converge, then you are just an idiot, because you're not smart enough to do it properly. So yeah, it's great news. It really is.
Can you see that filtering into the BPs around Australia, Harold?
So say again, Damo?
The BPs in Australia, can you see that filtering over this way, getting Tesla chargers installed here?
To be frank, no. I live near Manning, and there's a BP that was actually demolished and completely refurbished. They ripped the tanks out, they leveled the site. A similar thing happened to the BP at South Perth, opposite the Windsor Hotel. They were completely rebuilt, and there's not even any provision for future fast DC charging. They didn't even put conduits in. They specifically excluded the possibility of fast DC chargers at those two, I guess you call them brownfield sites. They basically rebuilt the sites from scratch, and there's no provision whatsoever.
And the opposite of that is what's happening in Norway, where they have legacy petrol stations, and there'll be 24 or 28 fast DC chargers. And if you want petrol, you sort of go around the back and you find the two Bowsers.
That's right. It's amazing. It's amazing to see that, especially like when like Tesla Björn is driving. I like to watch it sometimes, also like how that he guys optimizes like 1,000 kilometers and like really tries to see how well those cars perform. But like it's amazing to see these legacy Bowsers, and underneath it's fast chargers. They just took out the pump and put in the fast chargers, and I think eventually it's going to happen everywhere. But yeah, we may have to wait a little longer here.
We can only dream.
I'll tell you something that was really stark, and I haven't smelt this smell for about 25 years plus, and that was at one of the roadhouses on the last day. There was like an old FJ Holden, and this guy was driving it across the Nullarbor at about probably 90 k's an hour. And oh no, it was at Kimber. Sorry, it was at Kimber. And he had the bonnet up and he was doing something with the oil. And you know that I haven't smelt it for like 25 years. That smell of old, burnt, unburnt fuel infested, stinky oil. And it was just wafting, and I thought, wow, that's a real blast from the past, you know. Can't wait for that to go all together. I guess it's like, you know, perhaps 100 years ago, everyone knew what the smell of horse excrement was because the streets were full of it. And, you know, now you just don't ever, it's a novelty if you see one horse with possibly a policeman on it. And that's it.
I can't wait for all these old diesel bad plumes of smoke, and it's really bad. I mean, it's really sad that there's no, I mean, first of all, we don't have any fuel standards, but there's also no like checkup on like how well an engine actually is still performing and what the exhausts are. So no exhaust gas inspections. That's too bad. Like something should be done. It's disgusting.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It is. It really is. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm waiting for the first electric semi to overtake the diesel uphill and just make them look like they're standing still. That'll be the day.
You know, it's funny you say that because when I was at Kaiguna, you know, at the Tritium charging nervously. One thing that was funny was I heard these people. There were about 4 of us in this, like on the outside benches at Kaiguna, and I heard these numbers. People go. Someone went 8.2, and someone else goes 11.4, and then someone goes 7.8 or something. I went, what the hell's that? And so, of course, people are quoting, you know, liters per 100 kilometers and stuff like that. And one of the guys, he was getting 11 point something. And I thought, ooh, that's going to cost you. And he goes, yeah, I was going to buy a Model S back in the day, but I ended up buying this Commodore. This was like 7 years ago. And I went, oh, okay. And he goes, because it overtakes, you know, it's so easy on overtaking. And I went, oh, yeah. I guess my performance bike can do 0 to 100 in 3.7 seconds. I guess that might be fast enough for you. And he kind of nodded and whatever. But yeah, it's sort of funny. And you're right, Pete. It's you know, once the Tesla Semi comes out, and look, there's no impediment in Australia anymore because the regulations are being changed to increase the maximum width to 2.55 meters, which is within the envelope of the Tesla Semi. So, you know, Tesla should bring it to Australia as soon as possible, you know, and
that would be exemplified in Wollongong, where they've got Mount Ousley and Bullock Pass and Macquarie Pass they're things that these trucks struggle up. The Tesla would just walk it,
eat it,
and it would be amazing to see in that sort of country.
Yep, absolutely.
Can't wait.
Now, talking of great slopes and high angles, I don't know if you've seen this video that just highlights the relative stability of a Model Y compared to the ICE, I guess, equivalent. And this video goes like this.
That's remarkable.
Because there's literally no twist in the rear suspension. It's just stable.
That's incredible. Not many people do that.
And then you'll see another car. This thing. It's like, mate, you've got no hope. You got. That's what legacy cars do, and that's an off-roader built for it. Absolutely hopeless.
Is that on YouTube, Harold?
No, it's on
Instagram, huh?
Twitter.
I shared it on X, Damo.
It's on X.
Oh, I don't have it anymore.
Charge Go. So eat your heart out, Damo. That's where it's at.
They come to rotate my wheels the other day, actually, and I noticed he only brought one jack out. I'm thinking, surely he must have had to bring two jacks to jack the front up and the back. But then when he jacked just the back corner up, the front wheel come off the ground as well. That's how, like, I suppose, I don't know, stiff the chassis is.
That's that. I actually just rotated my tyres because see how's this? This is another thing with doing a road trip in an EV is you can do 13,500 Ks in 10 days, and then actually I'm going up north. It's only a 1,400 K day trip, just to help commission a charger, which is going to be a good news story. So, on the proviso that it works okay, the Overlander fast DC charger, which is the first off-grid example, it's a 50 kilowatt Tritium. If all goes well, that will be available for everyone to use either by the end of this week or by early next week, which is great news to get to Monkey Mia and Carnarvon and other places. But anyway, there was so imagine I've just done 13,500 Ks, ending last Saturday night. On Friday I'll do another 1,500-ish Ks. So in the space of roughly 2 weeks, I will have done 15,000 Ks. Well, if that's an ICE car, I am then obliged to have it serviced and have an oil change and all that sort of stuff. So that's another testament that having an EV, you don't need to have a stupid oil change and a service costing you hundreds of dollars, every 15,000 Ks.
The difference is
being without your car for a day.
Yes. And that's right too. Yeah, you have to be without the car.
Off in the bargain.
Yep.
And the inconvenience of taking it in.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. And yeah, so that's another thing. But yeah, you're right, Damo. I rotated my tires yesterday, and yeah. I actually used 2 jacks, but that was more just for my own sort of peace of mind. But yeah, basically you jack it on one side, on one end, and the whole half of the car rises up. Basically, it's pretty cool. Alrighty, now we're getting towards. We've got about 10 minutes, or a little bit over 10 minutes to go. So we should think about any last things. I mean, obviously, the one thing that's super exciting, and I mean, one thing I'm glad of is that I'll be getting up at ridiculous o'clock on Friday morning to do this road trip. But one bonus is means I'll be up for the Cybertruck delivery event. And that's, like I said, in the news, that's at 4 a.m. our time on Friday morning.
Is there a link available to watch that yet, Harold?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you just go to the Cybertruck X account, or it will also be on YouTube. So I dare say it'll be on Tesla's YouTube channel, but you can also get it on X. So, and in fact, I think it's on Tesla's website. They've actually posted it up as a link on their events thing on their website. So I don't know if anyone can put that up on the chat. But yeah, basically it's easy to find, Damo. You'll just look on X under Cybertruck. In fact, if I just go...
At 4 a.m. our time.
Absolutely, yep.
Correct.
Yep. Cybertruck. So if you look, if you just search for Cybertruck, so it's at Cybertruck on Twitter /X, this will become a live link. The pinned thing will become a live link at 4 a.m. or so on Friday. And, you know, it's going to be super exciting to basically finally most likely get the specs and at least the US pricing, which will give us an indication of what it'll be in Australia once it gets here. And, you know, hopefully it does that sooner than later. And hopefully Elon Musk, you know, the share price, you know, just to round out the program, basically the share price, I think it popped up 4% last night, which was great. It hasn't opened yet, but hopefully Elon Musk will also possibly announce, you know, or clarify production targets and basically state that things are going well and all that sort of stuff, you know.
Model 2?
Oh, he won't do that. He won't. I don't believe he'll do that for that event.
Not at this event.
The Model 2 will be a separate thing that will be launched. It'll be separate. It'll be a separate thing.
Yeah.
But that'll be exciting too, you know.
Very much so.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of appeal for like a smaller sort of city-based car that still have capability of fast charging going longer, but like more centered around the city. I think that would be huge and also would open up much broader base to buy. I think that would be huge.
Well, the irony is all it will do is depose the Model Y as the world's most popular car, which is really funny. So all that Tesla can hope to do is merely beat itself, because it's already beaten everyone else, the rest of the world. So in Europe, I didn't put this in the news, but in Europe, it's believed that basically the Model Y has already exceeded, it's already won the annual popularity contest or sales.
Best-selling car.
Best-selling car. It already is Europe's best-selling car already.
Yeah, but if you group them together, and you look at the stuff at BYD, and you also see how many Atto 3s and now like the little Dolphins are starting to zip around. I do believe there is demand and option for also like some smaller cars, right? So,
yes, of course.
Like while you're right, there's a huge demand for Model Y, but at the end of the day, it would be also good for even more models to be available.
And that's precisely what Tesla's doing.
I was going to say, Harold, about China in Model Y. The Model Y's got like a refreshed interior. It's got ambient lighting and stuff, but it seems to be only in China. I don't understand why. Why don't they just do that to all of them coming out of there?
Don't know, Damo. It's kind of strange. I mean, the only thing I would say is if you look at the Chinese version of the Model Y with the little bit of highlight lighting, that doesn't go all the way around. It's sort of, in my humble opinion, looks a little bit disjointed. It is quite strange that Tesla is persisting with having the difference. And it has been officially stated by Tesla Australia that there are no plans There are no current plans to bring that variant into Australia for the time being. So plans change, things evolve, but that's what the state of play is at the moment, Damo. So, but I mean, look, I'm personally excited about the Juniper Model Y, because it's going to basically be the same thing as the Highland Model 3 that many of us are going to see next Friday. So, I mean, that's still another Ask Us Anything away. So we might save our excitement till next week. But, the Juniper Model Y, if we thought the Model Y was already the world's most popular car, it's going to be even more popular once the Juniper comes out. And, and Christian, the Model 2 is going to eclipse it, as it should. And, it's arguable that just like Apple has roughly, I don't know, between a third and a half of the smartphone market, and kind of everyone else has the other half /
The rest.
2/3, the rest, and Apple is making the majority of all the profit, and all the rest are not. There's a plausible reason to believe that Tesla is going to be a substantial portion of the globe's car market because of because of what it is and what it does and what Elon Musk makes the company do, which is, again, always measure everything against the idiot index, the idiot ratio. You've got to make things cheaper and better. And, it all gets down to how do you transform those raw materials into a finished product for the least amount of cost and for the highest amount of quality.
And I guess that will be most likely the biggest innovation for the Model 2, or whatever they want to call it, where they will substantially reduce the assembly cost, the square footage. I mean, we talked about this, but I think they're really going to push the envelope in terms of how quickly they can do this. And it's also good that other car makers are taking kind of a cue from that, at least in Europe. Renault and other French car makers are making smaller cars cheaper, quicker, with some reduced complexities. And I think there is definitely a market for that. And if you look at India and others, they will not be able to afford these very expensive cars. Even here, needs to be something that is probably slotting underneath, and would be nice to see also Tesla being there. That's just my opinion. It would be great to see that.
And it's going to happen, absolutely. I mean, it's done. Basically Tesla has clarified that their Model 2 production will initially start at Texas, at Austin, because it makes sense, because they need to have the engineers at while they need to be designing the vehicle at the same time as they're designing the plant that builds it, because the two are inextricably linked, which is completely different to what standard automakers do. And that's the key to Tesla's success.
You heard Texas. I heard that it's going to be in Berlin, that they will be the first ones making that.
No, Elon Musk did say at an interview, I forget who it was that was interviewing him, that he basically distinctly said that originally it was going to be Mexico was going to be the first place to do the Model 2, the Robotaxi, but no, they've changed their mind and they've understood they cannot get the engineers to basically move to a greenfield site in Mexico. They've realised they need to have them where they are, which is at Austin, and Austin is an attractive place to live, and that's where they will build the first lines to do the Model 2. And then after that, once they've perfected it and the design, they will then take that to the world. And have no doubt, Berlin will be making them, Shanghai will be making them, Mexico will be making them, Austin, every future Tesla plant will be pushing out Model 2s and Robotaxis.
Harold, we've got less than 90 seconds to go.
Oh no, I've got a bit longer. It's okay, Pete, because we don't forget we started about 5 minutes after 7:30, so that's totally fine. Sorry, but thanks for the heads up anyway. But look, it is a good spot to sort of round things out, unless there's any very final last drinks.
I've I've got one last thing to mention
Yes,
since we've
go.
got extra time.
Yep.
So the Australian federal government is bringing in rules for any government-funded charges to have a minimum uptime of 98%. Now, 98% sounds really good, but it means that the charger can be offline for 7 days every year or 175 hours. To put that into context, Tesla superchargers had an uptime of 99.95% last year, which was less than 4 hours. So you're comparing 4 hours with 175 hours, or 4 hours versus 7 days. So 98% sounds good, and it's great that there is a minimum standard, but it's just a little bit low, that benchmark, in my opinion.
Couldn't agree more. In a week, that's over 3 hours downtime every week, and
yeah,
that's just really not good enough. They should have gone at least 99%. At least.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, minimum.
Very good. Alrighty. Well, okay, Pete, how would you round out an awesome show like this, as if I didn't already know?
First of all, well done on a fantastic hot lap. But as always, stay safe, stay sustainable, and stay ahead of the curve.
And the best way to do that is buy a Tesla, join TOCWA, drive around Australia, and ask us anything about accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. Have a wonderful week, everyone, and I look forward to seeing you on next week's episode of Ask Us Anything. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
I'll sit up. Thanks, guys.